And we, well, that's one way to start off. And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC basketball podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I needed a long break because that sun was not kind. It was not kind to me, especially in this in this nice shirt that I'm wearing. It was very, very, very hot. So, in this third segment, we're going to be talking about Angel Reese and her impact with the WNBA, as well as her recently getting fined in a game for cussing. So, she was cussing up a little storm on the court, saying that's BS, this, that, and the other. Mainly, it was that's BS, and she got fined for it. And obviously, like, you can't curse on national television, and it makes sense that you will get fined for these kinds of excuse me, these kind of things. However, it does not necessarily help her reputation. Now, Angel Reese, she's a bit of a, how do I put this? Like, she's a wild card with some basketball fans and women's basketball fans as well. I mean, some people they like her, some people really don't like her, and a lot of the times it seems like it's black or white. Like, I'm not trying to talk about the skin color. I'm trying to talk about literally just like you either like her or you don't. But now that I mentioned that, at the same time, it also might have something to do with skin color. But I'm not going to get into that, but I'm just going to, point that out because it does seem like a lot of the people that don't really support her are from, I'm not going to finish that sentence. You guys can connect the dots. But she's still very good, very popular in her own right, and she definitely deserves all the respect that she gets. And it's really I honestly think it's a crime that anyone, tries to blatantly disrespect her the way that a lot of people do. And a lot of it has to do with her attitude. Now, one of the biggest stipulations around women's sports, and one of the things that in my opinion, made the sport unattractive to a lot of people that watch it, was some of these women that have attitude. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't really seem like a popular thing amongst the viewers. For some reason, whenever an NBA athlete has an attitude, they're seen as dog. That's just how it is. That's how he is. He's tough like that, dog. Things like that. Especially when they talk all that smack, regardless of who's in front of them. Like, they're gonna talk their talk and they're going to walk their walk. However, whenever a female athlete does it, they get a completely different reaction from the rest of the media. This is sort of what the reaction would be. Well, I should point this way. This is sort of what the reaction would be with if a female athlete were to actively talk the way that she does, because a lot of people don't really like how she talks smack. They think it's labeled as let me just think of appropriate names. Like, oh, here we go. It's like thug. It's like a thug-like behavior that that's what people are saying. That's not what I'm saying, but it seems like that's sort of where a lot of people lean towards whenever whenever the haters picture Angel Reese and the things that she says. And I don't really like that stipulation because it's unfair for her. It's unfair for people like her, as well as it's just unfair for women athletes in general. I am a huge fan of the trash talking. Sometimes I think it's unprofessional. Like, there are times where I think, you go a little overboard, but the trash talking that she does, just being in people's face, getting all hyped and things like that, might be a little unprofessional. But it's like, yeah, that's how you play the sport. It's something that a fan can get excited about, I guess you could say. And I find it exciting. A lot of people that I know don't really like how she's portrayed and what she does on the media. She also says that she talks her talk a lot, and she says that she deserves some of the same attention that Caitlyn is getting, as for putting women's sports on the map. Now, she's right in my opinion, but at the same time, I don't really think that's something that needs to be said. You saying it just sort of sounds like, again, you're just a little bit jealous of Caitlyn and her fame. And while it's reasonable to be jealous, especially like when you beat her in the postseason, I don't think you should really call that out. That's just me, but she does what she does, and she does it very well. So, another thing is that Lonzo is going to pay for the fine of Angel Reese, given how, the fine is ridiculous and WNBA contracts are not that ridiculous to pay for those fines. So, a lot of female athletes, they can't really afford to get that many fines in the WNBA, given their salary, which is unfair. But aside from that, there's again, it's like her professionalism and the way that she talks around the media, and it's like she demands respect, and I think she deserves the respect because there would be no Caitlin Clark if there was no Angel Reese. It's as simple as that. Like, Caitlin and Angel, they both participated in one of the most popular women's basketball finals and one of the most viewed women's basketball games in the history of the sport. And, like, regardless what side of the coin you would rather take, she was a part of that. And obviously, most of the people were rooting for Caitlin Clark because she's just, that talented. But Angel Reese was the one that ended up getting the ring in the end. And she was also the one that was stirring up the, not really the beef, but, a lot of, it gave media outlets something to cover because she did this. And ever since she did this, that's literally the only thing that she's been remembered for. Like, she did this in front of Caitlyn, like, as a form of taunting because, she was winning, and she deserved to do that because she was winning, and there's, like, literally no way around it. She was winning, and she ended up winning in the end. And that doesn't really get talked about as much as Caitlyn gets talked about because, like, I mean, these women are out here beating her and winning, yet here they are left in the dust, I guess you could say. Now, excuse me. Angel, she's embraced her villain role, as she said in another post-game interview with this guy. And obviously, like, I mean, her embracing that role, I feel like it was a necessity. Like, in any kind of league, you always need a villain. You always need that one person that everyone can just, gang up against because they all cannot either stand him or her. Like, it's been a thing in the NBA for, like, the longest time. It's like you're either for or against this particular person. It's been going on for, like, I want to say decades. I mean, let me think. How far along has this been going? I can't really name many 90s players that get... Actually, I do have one. The Bad Boy Pistons, the entire roster, you were either with them or you were either against them and how they played. And the entire league didn't like how they played, but, if you were in Detroit, you loved it because you were winning championships. And a more recent example, like, if we want to go by, like, particular, like, individual villains, LeBron. He is the easy pick for being the villain because in 2010, a lot of people were really, really upset at LeBron for his decision for joining Miami, and he was dubbed the villain for, like, the longest time. And once he returned to Cleveland, he was then labeled a savior. But here was the problem. The NBA was lacking somebody to despise. So they shifted it to Kevin Durant. And he's been, like, when he was on the Warriors, I guess you could say he was sort of public enemy number one. That Warriors team was, in fact, public enemy number one. Everybody, like, that was any other team despised the Warriors for that move. And they despised Kevin Durant for that move. Now, ever since Kevin Durant joined a completely different team, it seems like the league has now sort of shifted the dislike towards Rudy Gobert. That is actually literally the perfect example of someone who gets hated on for absolutely no reason. And a villain, well, not really a villain in the NBA. It's just someone that he's just someone that nobody really likes. For some reason, not many people are really, oh, I'm a Rudy Gobert fan, and oh, I like Rudy Gobert. Most of the comments you get about Rudy Gobert are rather negative. So, the league always needs to have someone that, you can gang up and go against, and she's willing to be that person. I mean, now it seems like, it's more Dylan Brooks. Like, a lot of people, everyone cannot stand what Dylan Brooks has to say. And he's a big villain in the NBA. Not as popular, but, still, whenever he opens his mouth, he becomes very popular. And I mean, it's a similar role that Angel Reese is trying to, take up. And I genuinely, like, the WNBA needs this. They need this kind of, storyline, so that way they can market their games a little bit better, as well as have, more to talk about with these games and have a lot of more people interested. Especially, like, because, I mean, if there's beef in any sport, that is going to generate any kind of attention. And if she's going to continue talking her talk as much as she does, I can guarantee you she's going to make a lot of headlines. So with that, we are out of time for this third segment. So now I will go ahead and go into the fourth segment, where I talk about basketball players as volleyball players. Now, this was inspired by an athlete who recently joined the USA Olympics volleyball team. So I will be right back after this short break. Stay tuned.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.